Part 105. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1046. To be honest, the confrontation between Wang Ling and another host force did not fully unfold, and the battle was not even that intense. It was completely a one-sided crushing. But even so, their damage to the surrounding environment is also very serious. Nearly 70% of the entire bar hall was destroyed, and there were traces of dilapidation everywhere. Some broken wires were still sending out electric snakes from time to time, and there was even a hemispherical dent with a diameter of 5 meters that exploded. The underground pipes are now spraying water out. There is no bar hall here, it looks like a war scene. What happened? The Playboy brother, who was still angry before, finally calmed down after seeing this scene. He thought about what was wrong during the period after being hypnotized and was completely confused. After him, other drinkers also quickly entered the bar hall, and their expressions changed when they saw the situation here. As for the bar staff, they were even more shocked. The manager's face turned green. Others may be just curious and frightened, but apart from these, what's more important is that they feel distressed. This is their bar. This kind of thing happened for no reason. The bar will not be open tonight. However, a considerable number of the surrounding drinkers refused to disperse. Instead, they started talking about the incident, and some even picked up their mobile phones to start live broadcasting. After this happened, coupled with the discussion and spread among a group of drinkers, the news spread quickly and even attracted the attention of reporters. Reporters from magazines, newspapers, and even local TV stations rushed to the scene after hearing the news. Come and find first-hand novel news. With this kind of push, the news naturally spread faster. News about the bar was soon all over the internet, and everyone watching was very curious. Of course, these onlookers basically just glanced at it without going into too much detail. At most, they just regarded it as a strange piece of news. But among the drinkers that night, there were really sensitive people who, following their memory and reasoning, actually targeted Tanya. After all, Tanya was a little popular before the incident and attracted a lot of people's attention, but she disappeared after the hypnosis ended, so it was easy to be contacted. Thinking of Tanya's conspicuous appearance, some people immediately thought of a terrorist attack. However, when they thought that the bar was only damaged, but there were no casualties, this guess was put to death. Then someone encouraged them to check the surveillance camera, but not only was the camera destroyed, but even the computer used to store and monitor it was also destroyed, thus stopping them from checking. As for Wang Ling, because he was low-key enough, no one noticed him. Of course, there are always exceptions to everything. Among the drinkers, there was one person who remembered and suspected Wang Ling, such as the Playboy brother. However, he did not make this suspicion public. Instead, he returned home early, hoping to use his father's power to find out Wang Ling's identity and launch revenge. However, his father was able to develop into a wealthy businessman, but he was much more sensitive than him. When he heard him talking about this matter and suspected Wang Ling, he immediately became furious and scolded him severely. After all, if what happened in the bar was really Wang Ling's fault, and he could move everyone outside without anyone noticing and start a fight in the bar, how could he be an ordinary person? Let alone revenge, this kind of person will probably be resented and retaliated against even if it is just a one-sided investigation. Therefore, after clarifying the stakes and scaring the young master, the father even grounded him for a period of time to prevent him from causing trouble again. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Wang Ling's actions tonight were really popular on various social networks for a while. However, as the person involved, Wang Ling stayed in the dormitory very peacefully and was already sound asleep at this moment. To be honest, Wang Ling went to the bar tonight according to the invitation, which was a gamble in itself. In fact, he is not absolutely sure that he can defeat the host of another system. Going tonight can be regarded as a test. If the other party is too strong, Wang Ling can leave at any time through time and space, and no one can stop him. In the end, Wang Ling still won the bet. The host of the system did not dare to show his face. Although the group of monsters thrown out to test the waters looked ferocious and powerful, their actual combat power was not as good as that of Agent Tanya without any enhancements, let alone Wang Ling. Indeed, as a monster testing the waters, it is naturally impossible to be the strongest subordinate of this host, but it can be regarded as more or less above the average level at this stage. Based on this level, it can be judged that the combat power of this host is still far behind Wang Ling. In fact, this conclusion is not difficult to obtain. The system's true master stipulates that after completing all enhancements and plots, the host's information will be exposed to other hosts, thus starting a real-world battle. However, Wang Ling has not received a similar notification so far, which actually shows that other hosts have either not completed advanced enhancements, or their game worlds are still carrying out main missions. As Wang Ling, who has completed these two tasks, theoretically his overall strength is stronger than other hosts. Of course, this also depends on the type of game. If you catch up with restrained games and abilities, it will be difficult. However, it is obvious that the host who took action tonight is no match for Wang Ling at present, and after this trial, he probably knows how powerful Wang Ling is, and may not show up in a short time. In this way, the initiative is in Wang Ling's hands. Xiao He has already memorized the smell of the goblin. Wang Ling can take the initiative to find the goblin while he is hiding, but it will take a long time. After thinking about these things, Wang Ling naturally felt much more at ease, and had a good sleep. When Wang Ling woke up the next day and regained his energy, he took Xiao He and searched southwestward from the bar. This kind of search is destined to be a long process. After all, even if Xiao He searches continuously for a whole day, he cannot search too many areas and can only take his time. Fortunately, Wang Ling knew the current situation and was not too anxious. After lunch, I took Xiao He to search for several hours, but couldn't find the target at all, so I simply returned to the dormitory before evening. What happened at the bar last night has spread by now and has been covered on the campus network for a while. Naturally, the three bad friends also saw it. Unlike others, the three of them knew some of Wang Ling's secrets. After seeing the news, when Wang Ling came back, they all asked Wang Ling if he did it. And Wang Ling simply admitted it, "Yes, it's me. It's a sensitive issue related to deep hypnosis, and I have to do it. It's really not convenient to go into the details. In short, I didn't intentionally cause sabotage." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1047. I guess it was you who did it. It's really you. Apart from you, I can't think of anyone else who is so perverted. Seeing Wang Ling's admission, the three of them showed unexpected expressions. Although Wang Ling did not give any details or explain it too clearly, the three of them consciously did not ask further questions. After all, they also knew that the secrets about Wang Ling could not be revealed. If they continued to ask further, not only would they not get answers, but they would destroy the friendship. Wang Ling was also happy and relaxed, and watched the news together. After having fun for a while, he took them out to eat and stuff themselves. After the meal, Dongfang Yuking suggested that several people go to the bar in the same city to check out the situation. After the destruction last night, this bar in the same city was temporarily destroyed. It is still under repair. Although it has been speeded up, it has not been able to reopen yet. Compared with the usual bustle, it seems particularly deserted now. For this reason, the three people laughed at Wang Ling a lot. Wasn't it all Wang Ling's doing? And Wang Ling didn't take it seriously. In fact, this incident was not entirely his fault. If the host of another system hadn't decided to set the location at a bar, would this have happened? What's more, the explosion that caused the most serious damage was not caused by Wang Ling. After having enough fun, the four of them, together with Xiaohe, returned to school and fell asleep after having fun. The search continued the next day. Wang Ling was not in a hurry to find this host. He took Xiaohe around every day as a walk without any delay. After a day-long search, there were no clues. Wang Ling was not surprised or discouraged. He returned to the dormitory safely and continued to rest. That night, there was another local news about the bar. However, after Wang Ling and the other four saw the news, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Because this bar actually announced that it was attacked by aliens the night before yesterday. The most shocking thing is that this bar actually grabbed the news of the past 2 days and started to hype itself up. It was under construction for 2 consecutive days and was decorated into a bar with a theme about alien attacks, even the 5-meter bar. The diameter of the hemispherical explosion dent was specially preserved and decorated. This statement is really a gimmick. The bar has no hope that people will believe it. It is just using the weird things that happened the night before to create hype. However, people still stick to this. The theme bar will not open until a week later, but as soon as the news was released, many people online are paying attention, and even outsiders said they want to try it after it opens. For this reason, Dongfang Yuking couldn't help but sigh, "What a bastard. You are so good at business, you should seize any opportunity to hype it up." Wei Bowen and Zhang Shenke were also teasing, while Wang Ling laughed and said nothing. The bar turmoil has fermented to this point, and with the bar owner's statement, it has come to an end. As for what the bar will develop into in the future, Wang Ling doesn't care at all. However, just after the incident in the bar, another trouble came to the door. A few days ago, Wang Ling responded to Dongfang Yuking's request and single-handedly took over the entire pirate den and rescued the captured employees of Yuking's family. This is where the trouble started. In this operation, Wang Ling's powerful and unique abilities were really impressive. Even if he was wearing a mask, he would inevitably attract some attention. There are indeed many people investigating his identity, but the Chinese troops who are most likely to find Wang Ling's head are uncharacteristically low-key. I don't know if they don't want to continue the investigation, or they are just waiting and watching. As for the rescued foreigners, there was no way to investigate Wang Ling, and the employees of Yuking's family were even less able to investigate. What finally caused Wang Ling trouble was the boat of tourists he rescued before attacking the pirate den. There are 2 Chinese on this ship, and to be able to board this cruise ship and be noticed by the pirates, these 2 people are not simple in their own identities. They are all wealthy people. They have spared no effort in the past few days. Find out Wang Ling's identity. The breakthrough point was Wang Ling's target, the employees of Yuking's family. While on the ship, Wang Ling asked the pirates specifically about those people, and it was at that time that the 2 Chinese became concerned about them. It was impossible to directly detect Wang Ling, but it was still very simple to detect the employees. Following the clues, they quickly found Dongfang Yuking's home. And the target that was first suspected turned out to be Dongfang Yuking. After all, Wang Ling is wearing a mask and his face cannot be seen, but judging from his voice and figure, he is still very young. The employees at Dongfang Yuking's house are generally older. Only Wang Ling's roommate Dongfang Yuking agreed to the conditions. For this reason, these 2 wealthy businessmen even contacted Dongfang Yuking's family through their own channels. After getting acquainted with each other, they even went directly to the school to make an appointment with Dongfang Yuking. When the news reached Dongfang Yuking's ears, the guy was shocked and even turned to Wang Ling for help. Wang Ling's answer was simple: pretend not to know. Who can't pretend to be stupid? Dongfang Yuking is quite good at this aspect. After accepting the appointment, she didn't know anything about it and pretended to be stupid until the end. The 2 wealthy businessmen were actually dubious about his words. After meeting, they knew that Dongfang Yuking was not the masked young man who saved his life, that is, Wang Ling, because the two had different voices and were much different in stature. Easy to identify. But they did not give up. They kept asking Dongfang Yuking if he knew the masked young man, and ended up annoying Dongfang Yuking. After the meeting ended, the two of them wondered for a while, and after some thinking, they focused on the people Dongfang Yuking came into contact with. But this time, they found a surprise, and they quickly locked onto Wang Ling. This figure, this posture, and this voice are so similar to the original masked young man. After staring for a while, they soon started to meet Wang Ling. Why do you insist on looking for Wang Ling? According to what they said, it was actually to repay the favor, but Wang Ling was not interested in it. Compared with the small favors to repay the favor, the trouble after the identity was exposed was more troublesome. For this reason, when Wang Ling made an appointment, he simply used hypnosis. Under the hypnosis, he denied it and warned them not to explore further. Hypnosis is a great skill. All doubts were settled under hypnosis. As expected, the two wealthy businessmen no longer kept a close eye on Wang Ling, nor did they investigate further. However, after this incident, they took the initiative to get close to Dongfang Yuking's family and established quite close trade relations. Although they would not investigate further, they believed from the bottom of their hearts that Wang Ling was related to the Yuking family. And Yuking's father also tacitly understood it. He actually asked Dongfang Yuking if he knew the masked young man. Although Dongfang Yuking denied it and said it was a coincidence, his father didn't believe it, but he just didn't point it out. To say it was a coincidence, this was a bit too much. Not long after he told Dongfang Yuking the news, his employees were rescued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1048. Of course, Dongfang Yuking's father still knew very well how much his child weighed. He didn't think Dongfang Yuking was the masked young man at all. However, like the two wealthy businessmen, Yuking's father had also suspected that this boy must have known the masked young man, maybe he was a roommate or a friend. However, he guessed it, but he couldn't confirm it, so he simply maintained his suspicion and kept it tacitly. Using this to gain the favor of two wealthy businessmen and establish a cooperative relationship is an unexpected and happy event. Anyway, after being hypnotized, Wang Ling felt relieved for the time being and would not be bothered by these troublesome things anymore. After a period of time, he simply concentrated on searching for the host of another system. Although the goblin did not indicate the location of the host during the mind control, he looked to the southwest before self-destructing. Wang Ling had every reason to believe that the host was hiding in a corner in this direction. However, he had no idea how far away it was. Keeping this clue, Wang Ling searched for another week, but could not find it. And after this week, the bar in the same city finally reopened. This bar is a bit interesting to say the least. It was forced to close for repairs due to Wang Ling's criticism. However, it promoted itself under the news and decorated it into an alien attack-themed hotel. Although no one would believe this reason, due to the hype, the popularity was obviously much stronger than before. Wang Ling and the others even went to have fun all night that night, and were really surprised by the popularity there. Especially the 5-meter diameter hemispheric explosion dent, which is simply the theme symbol of the bar, attracting the curiosity of many drinkers. Dongfang Yuking and the others also asked Wang Ling how the explosion traces came about, but Wang Ling kept it secret and refused to explain it clearly, so they wisely stopped asking. During the clinking of glasses, Tanya even asked to come out and have fun, but Wang Ling refused her. Although many people have stopped pursuing what happened that night, after all, Tanya has been a little angry and can still be easily recognized. At first, many people suspected the matter to Tanya, and now she shows up again, there will inevitably be some trouble. It was very late that night, and the few of them returned in low spirits. When they were tired from playing, they stopped staying up late and fell asleep one after another. However, while Wang Ling was lying on the bed, he missed the red alert world a little, and it was a rare occasion for him to go back there to take a look. However, after the battle in red alert world ended, it no longer looked like a red alert game. Everything was developing prosperously. Except for a few areas, there were few wars. Although this is what Wang Ling expected to see, Wang Ling is a player after all. Red alert has changed, and he is already a little at a loss if he continues to stay in this world. After returning to the real world and lying on the bed sighing, Uncle Hay suddenly jumped in. "What, are your hands itchy and you want to fight?" Wang Ling didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Why do I feel so indebted to you? I do miss the previous battles, but now that there is peace, why do I want to fight? Tisk, to you, it's just a game. You don't have to worry about so much. If you think about it, I won't look down on you." Uncle Hay really despised Wang Ling, and then revealed, "Actually, if you still want to continue to experience the system game, you can. Although the plot is over, you can start a game separately from the plot of Red Alert World. Fighting is for entertainment. Because it is entertainment, your original troops in the Red Alert World cannot be used, and enemies you kill will not accumulate points. However, if you die in battle, you will still die in the real world." Oh! There is also this mode? It sounds like the encounter mode. It starts alone for entertainment and does not affect the real plot and everything in the Red Alert World. Wang Ling's eyes lit up. "That's right," Uncle Hay nodded and continued to reveal, "not only that, you can even use your real-world account to connect to the game battle platform from your computer and play against other players in person." "Oh, is there such a thing? You must experience it." Wang Ling was happy when he heard this. He felt completely sleepless. He quickly got up and turned on his computer. He temporarily downloaded a battle platform and found his version of the Red Alert game. In the Red Alert world before, although the hostile forces also had more or less strategies, on the whole they were still fighting against humans and machines. Wang Ling also wanted to experience online combat. Now that he finally had the opportunity, why not try it right away? Wang Ling didn't know how to perform the specific operation, but the system bracelet slowly emerged from Wang Ling's wrist and flickered for a while. During this period, Uncle Hay had already helped Wang Ling connect to the platform. "Okay, come and try it." Wang Ling nodded, clicked on the game, and after selecting the battle room, he lay on the bed and entered the game with the help of the system. After a brief wait, the battle begins. This map is a mountain map where 4 bases compete. Wang Ling chose the forces of the coalition forces as usual, and personally served as the commander to build the base. On weekdays, he was used to being the hands-off shopkeeper in the Red Alert world, but he was a little lazy and rusty in terms of infrastructure construction. As a result, he fell behind the other 3 players at the start. These 3 players are all allied forces and have already built spy satellites. However, Wang Ling has just begun to expand his troops, and there are not many base defense buildings. Persimmon was stunned. Seeing the situation here, the other 3 players unexpectedly gathered their forces and attacked. After all, the defense force had not yet been formed, and with the attacks of 3 bases, half of Wang Ling's base was quickly destroyed. Seeing that it was about to fail, Wang Ling was so angry that he actually stepped forward in person. Although the troops in the Red Alert world could not be used, Wang Ling's abilities were retained. After showing up, Wang Ling took the lead in releasing a mental shockwave, clearing away the infantry of the 3 forces, and then cast 3 mental power lines to control the 3 forces. A phantom tank, then switched rifle fire from a long distance, took the lead in clearing out all the air defense troops, and then directly took off, wreaking havoc on all the troops in the 3 bases in the air. Although the 3 bases were coming fiercely, Wang Ling was too powerful. Under his counterattack, half of the strength of the three bases was quickly lost, and the remaining half could not resist for long. He was actually used to this style of play in the Red Alert world, but this was not the Red Alert world. During the fierce battle, a group of tanks suddenly exploded, and the system prompted that one of the bases had been wiped out. Just as he was wondering, the second base also followed suit. There was only one armored base left, so it was even easier. They fired 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, but just after destroying all the tanks, the third base also surrendered. Not to mention, when Wang Ling was looking at the score statistics of the battle in confusion, he was forcibly kicked out of the game. What the hell? At this moment, Wang Ling was so angry that he came to life. No, I woke up because of anger. Uncle Hay explained happily, you kid, you haven't changed your habit of fighting in the Red Alert world. How can there be soldiers like you in ordinary games? You are obviously cheating. The 3 players fighting you were forced to quit midway and reported that you had used cheats. The platform administrator has permanently banned your account. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1049. Ha! When Wang Ling heard this, he became anxious. What are you talking about? I am opening a cheat? And you are permanently banned? So cruel. Ha ha ha! Uncle Hay laughed particularly happily. It's rare to see you suffer such a big loss of being dumb. Why am I so happy? Wang Ling didn't respond, but he gritted his teeth, his face turned dark, and he felt particularly unhappy. After he had laughed enough, Uncle Hay said, what can I say about you? You are also a player after all. Before there was no system to assist you. Which hostile force have you seen that is similar to you? You are such an almost perverted individual. Fighting you, what hope is there of winning? For you, it is a normal battle, but for others, it is like turning on a plug-in. Humans, and computers have no right to resist, they can only let you bullying, but if it were other players, who would be so angry with you? There is no discussion about reporting you. Depend on. Wang Ling's face was still a little dark, but if you think about it carefully, it was true. There was no other way, so Wang Ling had no choice but to admit defeat. After learning this lesson, Wang Ling simply deleted the game platform and did not re-download other platforms. Instead, he shut down the computer and built a human-computer encounter mode with the help of the system, which entertained him for 2 games. It's exactly what Uncle Hay said. Facing Wang Ling, the human-machine computer really has no right to resist and can only be bullied by Wang Ling. Whenever there is an emergency, Wang Ling will step in to save the day, but the hostile force's human-machine computer he could only suffer the loss of being dumb, being suppressed and beaten like this by Wang Ling for 2 consecutive rounds. After these 2 rounds, Wang Ling stopped trying and having fun. Different from the main plot of Red Alert World, this entertainment mode can only be used as a pastime. It is okay to play 2 games occasionally, but after a long time, the interest will fade. At this time, the other 3 roommates were already snoring one after another, and there were even sounds of mumbling and grinding teeth in their sleep. It seemed that they were all fast asleep. Wang Ling did not disturb the people. After the entertainment, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Now, almost all the troubles in the real world have come to an end. Wang Ling devoted all his energy to searching for another system host, leading Xiao He to search in the southwest every day. During this period, Wang Ling was actually waiting for this host to show up on his own initiative, or for his subordinates to show up and harass him again, so that he could seize the opportunity to inquire about some detailed location information. However, in the last battle, the host seemed to I was really shocked. It has been so long and it has not appeared again, as if it has disappeared. There was no other way, so Wang Ling could only be patient and search step by step. Another week has passed under this kind of search. Starting from the bar, Wang Ling and Xiao He have walked through most of the city, but they still haven't found any clues. As time passed, Wang Ling became somewhat impatient. This afternoon, Wang Ling and Xiao He searched the railway area. Looking at the desolation around them, they were inevitably a little discouraged. I am afraid that they will return without success again today. Woof woof. Woof woof. However, at this moment, Xiao He seemed to have discovered something. With a scream, he led Wang Ling and ran to the railway bridge behind a few bends. Woof woof. Woof woof. Facing a wall, Xiao He barked and wagged his tail. Wang Ling was puzzled. Wall? Xiao He, are you sure this is here? My Wu. Xiao He nodded, very sure of his judgment. Out of trust in Xiao He, Wang Ling could only be patient and search carefully. This wall is no different from other walls. It is just built with masonry and rubble, and there are various graffiti on the lime coating. At first glance, there is nothing unusual at all. After observing for a while, Wang Ling released his spiritual power, covering the wall and examining it carefully. But when he looked at it, he raised his eyebrows, because this wall had no entity under his inspection, and the whole wall seemed to be a phantom. Good guy, what kind of method is this? After detecting this abnormality, Wang Ling was convinced of Xiao He's judgment and stretched out his hand to push against the wall. As a result, his whole hand seemed to have passed through it. Woof, Xiao He barked at the right time, seemingly showing off the results of his search. Wang Ling smiled, okay, Xiao He, I have it for you. I'm not sure what will happen behind the wall. You can go to the transit station first. My Wu. As soon as he finished speaking, a black vortex appeared behind Xiao He, and Xiao He also got into it very obediently. Without Xiao He's scruples, Wang Ling became much bolder. To be on the safe side, he strengthened his body into the form of a wild beast king and was prepared to move through time and space in case of any eventuality. After getting ready, he jumped in head first. Buzz. With this collision, Wang Ling's whole body penetrated into the wall, but he did not immediately land behind the wall with his feet. Instead, he seemed to be traveling through space. There was a darkness in front of his eyes and a buzzing sound in his head. However, it didn't last long before it ended, and Wang Ling also landed in a cave. The long mountain tunnel corridor in front of him led directly to the unknown place inside the cave. Oh, it turns out that it's not just a simple phantom, but there is also an automatically triggered teleportation array. After Wang Ling got his feet on the ground, he was surprised when he recalled the experience just now. Even though he had just taken one step, this step had already sent him somewhere, and the global electronic map in his subconscious had lost its effectiveness. If the electronic map fails, the time and space teleportation will be restricted to a certain extent. Without this trump card, Wang Ling will have to be more careful. It was pitch dark inside the cave, but Wang Ling had night vision, so he was not worried. He walked forward cautiously while exploring the surroundings. This cave is not naturally formed, and there are very obvious traces of artificial carvings in the corridor. Of course, calling it artificial is a bit reluctant, because the workmanship here is very rough, and it looks more like it was carved by the big guys Wang Ling had seen before. While observing, Wang Ling discovered something unusual. On the walls of the cave corridor, there were traces of swords from time to time, which were very abrupt. This kind of trace is incompatible with those of the excavations, as if a battle with cold weapons had occurred here. What happened? Wang Ling was puzzled, but not long after walking forward, he saw an explosion crater about 2 meters in diameter. This was not the first time Wang Ling had seen this kind of deep pit. Wasn't it the exaggerated mark left by the goblin when he blew himself up? There really has been a war here. Who did you fight with? Also, I've been in his territory for so long and you haven't found me yet. Wang Ling was really confused. He didn't dare to go deeper and instead probed out. When the spiritual power spreads, it doesn't matter whether it alarms the owner of the system or not. After this investigation, Wang Ling discovered something extraordinary, and his expression suddenly changed. Different dimension red alert world. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1050. Wang Ling didn't know how far the tunnel corridor of this cave was. His spiritual power could extend up to several kilometers, but at this distance, he could not detect the end of the tunnel corridor. However, during this investigation, Wang Ling was really surprised by the traces in the tunnel corridor. The sword marks and explosion marks that Wang Ling had seen before were actually just the tip of the iceberg. As they went deeper into the tunnel, these marks became denser. The crazy scratches even carved dozens of centimeters into the wall at their deepest point. In addition to these sharp sword scratches, there are also many blunt weapon strike marks. Wang Ling didn't know what this kind of blunt weapon was, but judging from the damage marks, this thing must not be lighter. Not only the surrounding mountain walls, but also the ground was smashed to pieces by blunt weapons. The most exaggerated a smash mark actually made a dent of more than half a meter in the ground, and cracks like spider webs spread 5 or 6 meters around. Naturally, there are also horrific dents left by goblin explosions everywhere. The power of these goblins' self-explosion also varies. Some are only about 1 meter in diameter, and some are 2 or 3 meters in diameter. Meters, the most terrifying explosion was not even able to cover the tunnel, which was 7 or 8 meters wide. The horrific explosion also caused the collapse of the corresponding section, burying the tunnel more than 3 meters high. There was a war in this place. And it was a very terrifying battle, a tough confrontation with cold weapons. Although he did not see the battle with his own eyes, Wang Ling could imagine the intensity of the battle just by looking at these traces, and he felt a little chilly. He was indeed used to big battles in the Red Alert world, but those were battles with hot weapons. This was really the first time he was exposed to a battle with cold weapons like this. Wang Ling has not studied the traces of cold weapon warfare and does not have any archaeological knowledge. However, after carefully examining these traces, Wang Ling always feels that this seems to be the war that took place in these days, because among these traces, there are still it also revealed a very fierce murderous intention. Good guy, what's going on? Who's coming to kill you? Wang Ling was confused. He had stayed in this tunnel corridor for so long without being discovered. I'm afraid it had something to do with this war. Things changed, and Wang Ling no longer had the patience to fumble step by step. He simply kept releasing his mental power and ran forward with the help of his night vision ability. He ran extremely fast. He continued to run for more than a kilometer without detecting any enemies, not even a living creature. When he encountered a landslide in front of him, he didn't bother to clean it up, so he simply moved across time and space. Passed by and continued running at high speed. Maintaining this speed, Wang Ling ran for about 3 kilometers and finally made a discovery. He explored the outermost edge of his mental power and reached the end of the tunnel. Whoosh! He used his mental power to detect everything along the way, and there were no unexpected situations. Wang Ling simply used his mental power to move directly to the end of time and space. What came to us at the end was a huge cave that was opened out, tens of meters square and very wide. There should have been many artificial constructions in the cave, but all of these constructions were destroyed, and there were signs of dilapidation everywhere. Among these ruins, Wang Ling finally discovered 4 corpses, so he hurried forward to check. Those who could leave corpses in the battle must be people from the real world. Wang Ling checked the 3 people on the edge. They all had unfamiliar faces, and there was a ferocious sword mark between their throats. It must have been this sword that killed them. Life. Their clothes were relatively neat. I'm afraid they were not the protagonists. They were killed with one sword. They didn't struggle too much, so they didn't suffer too much. As for the last corpse, it was a bit miserable. It seemed that he had been fighting for a long time. There were wounds everywhere on his body, and there were even a few fatal wounds. If a person in the real world appears in a place like this and dies after a long battle, it can be imagined that this person is probably the host of another system. Although they were said to be hostile, they were the same kind of people after all. Seeing this corpse, Wang Ling couldn't help but feel a thump in his heart, as if he had seen the final cruel fate of all the hosts. After sighing silently for a while and adjusting his mentality, Wang Ling finally approached the corpse, but after seeing his face clearly, Wang Ling was stunned on the spot. Zhenglong. Isn't it? It turns out that the host of this other system is his former classmate Zhenglong. As early as after the make-up physical fitness test, Zhenglong took the initiative to challenge Wang Ling. After being humiliated, he called his eldest brother Zheng Kui. However, even Zheng Kui was frightened by Wang Ling. Instead of regaining his position, he made a big mistake. Since then, Zhenglong voluntarily dropped out of school and transferred to another school. Since then, Wang Ling has never seen Zhenglong again. But I didn't expect that we would meet on such an occasion. What's even more unexpected is that Zhenglong died long before they met. To be honest, Wang Ling didn't like Zhenglong at all, and even felt a little disgusted. If Zhenglong was still alive, he had no doubt that the two sides would fight to the death. But now that Zhenglong is dead, Wang Ling has let go of the original grudges and didn't pursue anything further. It turns out to be this bastard boy Zhenglong. I didn't expect that after leaving school, he would become the host of the system by chance. At this time, Uncle Hei's voice also came out. Then came Tanya's voice, who is Zhenglong. He was Wang Ling's former classmate. Tanya showed up late and had never met Zhenglong before. Uncle Hei didn't mind it and explained Zhenglong's identity and the conflict with Wang Ling alone. After listening, Tanya suddenly realized, listen to what you said, when he challenged Wang Ling, Zhenglong didn't know anything about the interdimensional system. He obtained the system after transferring to another school. No wonder they are both hosts, and they always feel that this guy is far away, not as good as Wang Ling. He started too late. Uncle Hei also nodded. Yes, when he transferred to another school, Wang Ling had already been injected with the intermediate enhancer and started earlier than him. But this is not the main reason. Although they are both hosts, they choose different games. Growth is different, and how far it can grow depends entirely on the host's perseverance. I don't think Zhenglong is tougher than Wang Ling. I'm afraid that even if all the enhancements are completed in the end, it will be difficult for him to be Wang Ling's opponent. Oh. An artificial intelligence brain, a permanent exchange program, they just started talking in Wang Ling's mind. Of course Wang Ling heard it, but he didn't respond. It wasn't until the two of them finished talking that he became confused. Even if Zhenglong hasn't completed the enhancement, he is the host of the system after all. How can it be so easy, dead? Who did it? I'm so curious. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1051. Zhenglong can redeem his subordinates in the game world, and he must have unlocked advanced exchanges. Even if he didn't inject high-level enhancers, he should have intermediate enhancements, right? He was able to storm Zhenglong's lair before me, and successfully killed Zhenglong. Who has this kind of strength? Looking at Zhenglong's body, Wang Ling mourned for a while, then became full of vigilance. While questioning, he also released his spiritual power and carefully explored everything in this hall, hoping to find some clues. But when he was investigating, Uncle Hei said, I think it might have been done by another host. Another host? Tanya was surprised. Uncle Hei replied, yes, he has such a powerful strength, and specializes in killing Zhenglong as the host. Apart from other people who are also hosts, I really can't think of anyone else who has such motivation and strength. Oh my god, how many hosts are there in the system? Isn't Wang Ling very dangerous? Tanya was a little worried, but even as she was worried, she also had doubts, something's wrong. Logically speaking, Wang Ling completed the enhancement and plot. Others shouldn't the host find Wang Ling? Why did he go beyond Wang Ling and instead find Zheng Long, a host whose enhancements and plot have not been completed? Uncle He didn't answer. In fact, he didn't understand it either. But Wang Ling spoke at the right time, no need to be suspicious, it was indeed another host who did it, and this host has already issued a letter of challenge to me. Uncle He and Tanya were a little puzzled, but Wang Ling had already withdrawn his spiritual power and looked at a big stone next to the entrance of the cave. He saw a few words marked on it with the edge of a sword. 2 days later, you on the Wild Valley Island in the center of the Atlantic Ocean, the fateful battle begins. The Battle of Fate. Sure enough, it was other hosts who did it. The fateful battle, isn't this what the master of the system stipulates, that all hosts have to fight each other? Uncle He and Tanya finally understood. Wang Ling nodded and thought about the details clearly. Why did you surpass me and kill Zheng Long first? I think it was the weakest person. Zheng Long took the initiative to provoke, and what happened between his subordinates and me, the fight may have been notified by the system, and the host learned the comparison of strength and got clues about Zheng Long's location, so he found Zheng Long one step ahead of me, killed him, and left a letter of challenge. We have arrived now. The news about the cave has probably been known to the host. After finishing speaking, Wang Ling looked at the corridor and tunnel from where he came from and analyzed. Obviously a very fierce battle took place here, but except for these 4 corpses, there were no other corpses or bloodstains. This maybe it is because the 2 hosts mainly fight with their own forces, and naturally no corpses will be left after they die in battle. Looking at the sword marks and blunt weapon blow marks on the tunnel, the game this host is bound to is probably a martial arts arena. Kind of game. Martial arts? Those who play with swords. Then we are sure of victory. How can cold weapons defeat overheated weapons? Tanya said with a smile. But Uncle He struck back and said, don't be so complacent, don't forget the blessing of the system. Why is Wang Ling so strong? In addition to the military units he chose, there are also the military units capabilities that I customized for him. I can do it. The systems of other hosts will naturally not be bad. There is no telling how powerful this martial arts host will be, and what weird skills he will possess. That's it? Hearing this, Tanya immediately wilted again, and asked after a while, I still don't understand. Hasn't the strengthening been completed and the main storyline of the system completed? Will other hosts receive his message? Why is this host completely no news? Uncle He replied, the system will not make mistakes. Rules are rules. There is no news about the host yet. Either he has not completed the main plot, or he has not completed all the enhancements. There is no other possibility. Wang Ling added an explanation, I think it may be that the advanced enhancement has not been completed. Although this enhancement is abnormal, the process is too painful. Not everyone has the courage to try it. The success rate of 20% is enough to block a person. There are a large number of hosts. If I hadn't been forced to have no way out by the experiment of the Soul Empire, I might not even dare to try it now. Is it so scary? That's right. This advanced enhancement is a double torture of both body and mind. It will create many obstacles in your conscious illusion. Every obstacle is a torture. If you can cross it, you will become a snake and become a dragon. If you can't cross it, you will be shattered into pieces. To this day, I still have lingering fears about the last level, where a person exactly like me was created. To fight with me, I must kill him within the specified time. Although his abilities are very close to mine, but there was no pain, and I was not afraid of death when fighting. I was almost killed by him. In the end, I changed my fighting style and was more ferocious than him. I traded my life for my life and successfully killed him. Completed highly enhanced. Recalling the experiences of advanced enhancement, Wang Ling still has fresh memories. With that success rate, he has reason to suspect that this host has not completed advanced enhancement. And his explanation and conjecture were also recognized by Uncle Hay and Tanya. 2 days. Haha, it's really hasty. It seems that there are only 2 days left in my good days. Whether this battle is life or death, I am afraid that great changes will occur in the future. Cherish the time you have now. As a host, although he has abilities beyond the reach of ordinary people, the price is not something ordinary people can afford. After Wang Ling sighed, he dug 4 deep pits himself, put the bodies of Zheng Long and the others in them, and simply erected a tombstone. Although he looked down on Zheng Long, Wang Ling didn't care too much about him since everyone was dead. He was the same kind of person, and he even felt a little regretful. After finishing these tasks, Wang Ling didn't need to stay any longer. He moved directly through time and space, came to the teleportation array, and returned to the real world. Before leaving, he even considered whether to destroy the teleportation array. But after some thought, I gave up. Then he gave up the idea of wandering around and directly released Xiao He, traveling back to school through time and space. Although he had the ability to travel through time and space, Wang Ling really didn't want to go anywhere. In the next 2 days, he just returned to the roof of his home, hid in the dark and stayed with his parents for a while, and then returned to school for 2 days in a row. Almost none of them left the dormitory door, they were all having fun with these 3 bad friends. Finally, the night before leaving, Wang Ling took them out for one last dinner. Even Wang Ling didn't know what the outcome would be after tomorrow. The atmosphere tonight was inevitably a little bleak. As a result, Wei Bowen was keenly aware of it and asked directly, "Wang Ling, what's wrong with you today? It feels like you have to say goodbye to us are you okay?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1052. It's nothing, I just have to deal with some things tomorrow. Wang Ling didn't want to tell them in detail, lest they worry. However, even if he didn't say it, how could these 3 people not notice it? Zhang Shenke pointed it out directly, "Is it about deep hypnosis?" Wang Ling frowned. He wanted to deny it, but at this moment he couldn't speak at all. This attitude was almost acquiescence. Dong Fangyuking quickly asked, "Is it dangerous?" Having said this, Wang Ling stopped trying to deny it and simply replied with a forced smile, "It's nothing, it's just a person who has also undergone deep hypnosis who challenged me. I will teach this junior a lesson tomorrow. That's all." Really, the 3 of them were still skeptical. After all, no matter how Wang Ling tried to hide it, the bleak atmosphere couldn't be concealed. However, when they continued to ask, Wang Ling didn't want to say anything anymore. They simply didn't ask, but Dong Fangyuking said, "Be careful tomorrow. If you can't beat me, then run away. Anyway, I'm waiting for you to come back." "Me too, we don't seek any fame or fortune, nor do we want you to be a hero or overlord, as long as we come back safely. Don't fool us, you must come back on time." "Okay, definitely." That deep concern also touched Wang Ling's heartstrings. At this moment, he smiled particularly innocently. This dinner did not last long. After returning to the dormitory, it was rare that the 3 of them did not entertain themselves all night long and fell asleep early. Wang Ling was lying on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. His insomnia was very serious. He simply took advantage of this sleepless time to open 2 more rounds of entertainment mode alone, and finally practiced his combat methods. After venting his anger, he returned to the real world and went to sleep. The next day, Wang Ling got up early. After a simple breakfast, he squatted down and stroked Xiao Hei's dog's head, sighing, "Xiao Hei, this day has finally come. This is a fateful battle, will I win?" "Woof woof," Xiao Hei barked several times and nodded repeatedly, as if to cheer Wang Ling up. This move also amused Wang Ling, who smiled and rubbed it for a while. "Okay, stop making trouble, come to transfer, it's time for us to set off." "My woo." Xiao Hei let out a low cry, and a black vortex appeared beside him, and he turned around and got in. Wang Ling, on the other hand, looked back at his three injured friends who were still sleeping soundly, smiled, and finally activated his time travel movement and left here. After he left, the three people who were still snoring suddenly stopped and opened their eyes one after another. The three of them had actually woken up just now, but they just didn't want to disturb Wang Ling. They squinted their eyes and saw the way Xiao Hei disappeared just now. They were naturally horrified in their hearts, but they made no sound. Until this moment, the three of them glanced at each other, looking somewhat worried. Wang Ling has a secret hidden in him. This battle may be more difficult than they imagined. In the center of the Atlantic Ocean, there is a unique island called Wild Valley Island. Its location is relatively prominent and can be easily found on the electronic map. However, as the location of the decisive battle, Wang Ling did not land on the island immediately. Instead, he appeared on the surrounding islands and stopped to watch for a while. At this moment, he was actually preparing for the war. In addition to Tanya, who was ready to fight at any time, Wang Ling also included Sun Dehua, Erlu, Chen Tong, Li Tong, Gu Suanwu, Sun Chiming and other veterans from the Red Police world. All the comrades were temporarily redeemed, but they did not appear in the real world. They were just on standby at the transfer station. Even Yuri was redeemed afterwards. He really couldn't predict what the war would be like in advance, so he had to prepare these back UPS to avoid being too hasty when he needed manpower temporarily. After these people learned the specific situation from Tanya and made preparations, Wang Ling made the last time travel movement and landed on the Ye Valley Island. The sun has just risen in eastern China. As an island in the Atlantic Ocean, the Wild Valley Island is naturally still in the dark stage, but this does not affect Wang Ling. After he landed on the island, he looked around. The area of the island was not too big, which was equivalent to the size of the county where the school was located. It was named after a peculiar valley landform in the eastern region. The other areas were very flat. In this season, unique plants grow everywhere. No animals live here, but seabirds appear from time to time. Other than that, there was nothing special about it, and the host who challenged Wang Ling was nowhere to be seen. "Aren't you here yet?" "Am I here early?" Wang Ling chuckled. Since he was early, he simply found a rock to lie down on and take a break. However, he only rested for less than 5 minutes when there was a very continuous sound of breaking through the air in the distance. When he opened his eyes, he could see that there was a person in the sky, carrying a paraglider and flying quickly from far to near. Waiting to break in, the paragliders were abandoned only after reaching the island range. However, this figure did not fall to the ground immediately. Instead, it stepped into the air beside it, as if it had stepped on a wall of air. It bounced, and then landed on the treetop several times in a row, bouncing with the help of a few leaves on the treetop. After a few somersaults, he naturally fell to the ground. His whole body was as light as if he had no weight. Pa! 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 What a gorgeous way to appear, worthy of being the host of a martial arts game. Wang Ling, who had watched the whole process, had no intention of lying down anymore. After standing up, he applauded and praised. This host was dressed very uniquely, wearing a black tights and a ghost face mask, just like an assassin. Hearing Wang Ling's voice, the host also laughed. "Long wait." Wang Ling shook his head and said with a meaningful smile, "It didn't take long, just a few minutes. We've already met, why are you still wearing a mask?" Take it off, Teacher Li Dong. Wang Ling bit these last four words very hard, and his eyes seemed to radiate light. Oh? How did you know it was me? When his identity was called, the man in black was obviously quite surprised. He followed Wang Ling's instructions and took off his mask. The familiar face was indeed Teacher Li Dong. Seeing this face, Wang Ling's eyes became even brighter. It is indeed you, Teacher Li Dong. During the days when I was with you, you pretended to be the same and you are so good at acting. Teacher Li Dong also laughed. Praise, praise, compared to you, the disguise is deeper. But it's useless no matter how deep it is. Why don't you guess it? I'm curious, when did you know my identity? Wang Ling replied, I didn't know at the beginning, until I tried to exert mind control on you, but was forcefully rebounded. I began to doubt your identity. But at that time, I thought you were the master of the system. It wasn't until my system told me that there were other hosts that I became suspicious of you. But you never did anything extraordinary, so I didn't provoke you. Ha ha ha, it turns out that was that time. But you can't blame me. If you control me, then I will become transparent. After Teacher Li Dong defended with a smile, he suddenly asked with meaning, do you still remember what I hinted at you before? Wang Ling narrowed his eyes, I remember, but I still don't understand it very well. You still need to explain many things to me personally. If you want to hear my explanation and be easy to talk about, beat me. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1053. Wang Ling had too many questions in his mind and wanted to ask Teacher Li Dong to answer them, but Teacher Li Dong could only say a few words, but the flames of war had already been ignited. With a flip of his wrist, a red dagger appeared out of thin air in his hand. Seeing this dagger, Wang Ling's eyes narrowed, and he recalled the sword marks on the wall of the corridor and tunnel, and frowned slightly. It is really a cold weapon in martial arts games. Zheng Long, was it really you who killed him? Teacher Li Dong smiled and said, yes, it's me. You already have the answer, why do you have to ask more questions? Why? Wang Ling ignored his question and just asked, looking somewhat excited. But Teacher Li Dong still didn't want to explain, beat me and I will answer all your questions. As soon as he finished speaking, Teacher Li Dong suddenly swung two swords in succession, and two sharp sword energies came out quickly and rushed towards Wang Ling. Snort. Feeling the fierce killing intent in the sword energy, Wang Ling felt a little nervous and did not dare to resist. He quickly rolled sideways to avoid the sword energy. But just as he stood firm, Teacher Li Dong launched a more fierce attack. The dagger in his hand suddenly turned into a dagger, and his whole body seemed to turn into a cold light, shooting towards Wang Ling. The lethality of this blow was even more terrifying than the sword energy. Wang Ling did not dare to bear it, so he could only temporarily avoid the sharp edge and quickly jumped 3 meters high to barely avoid it. Call. But when he landed and couldn't even stand up, Teacher Li Dong was already approaching quickly, and the dagger suddenly turned into a huge hammer. The handle was 1 meter long, and the hammer body was half a meter in diameter. Huge iron ball. Boom. Swinging the huge hammer, he drew a circle in the air to store his energy, and then smashed it into Wang Ling's face. This blow was so violent that it seemed to explode the air, causing a harsh sound of breaking through the air and a very strong pressure of air. However, Wang Ling temporarily avoided this attack by moving through time and space. The huge hammer hit the ground directly, instantly cracking the ground into a deep pit with a diameter of 1 meter, and the surrounding cracks spread like a spider web. Come. Hiss. Seeing such huge destructive power, Wang Ling couldn't help but take a breath of air. It had only been a few seconds since Teacher Li Dong attacked. However, in these few seconds, he had successively launched his killing moves, which were so sharp and terrifying that Wang Ling did not dare to ignore the huge threat. After 3 consecutive attacks, Teacher Li Dong did not continue the attack for the time being. Instead, he picked up the hammer, looked at Wang Ling, and said provocatively, "What's wrong, Wang Ling, haven't you accepted the reality? You refused to counterattack, you just evaded. But you can't beat me." Wang Ling stayed more than 10 meters opposite him, looking at Teacher Li Dong intently. Lightning flashed in his mind, as if he had caught something, and his eyes suddenly lit up. "These weapons of yours look familiar, and your moves are also very familiar. If I guess correctly, the martial arts game you bound should be Meteor Butterfly Sword, right?" "Oh. Haha, it's interesting. You actually played that game. I thought people your age had already passed the era of Meteor Butterfly Sword." Teacher Li Dong did not deny it. Wang Ling said, "It is indeed outdated, and few people play it. However, I am one of the very few, including the Red Alert I am bound to." "How many people are playing it now?" Teacher Li Dong smiled and said, "Red Alert? Haha, it is indeed the memory of a generation. It is really unexpected that you are bound to the Red Alert at your age. I thought you had to be bound to the magical genre like Zhenglong game." Wang Ling didn't say anything. In fact, it was just a misunderstanding that he bound the Red Alert. When he got the extra-dimensional system, he was prompted to bind it to a game. He just tried it casually, and the result could not be changed. If there is a regret medicine, if Wang Ling chooses it again, I am afraid that the rebind will really be a magical game. Teacher Li Dong naturally didn't know this. When Wang Ling was silent, the hammer in his hand had turned into a spear and warned, "Cold weapons versus hot weapons. It's interesting. But Wang Ling, don't be careless. All weapons in the game have reached level 10 proficiency, and can release various skills at any time without any anger limit. Since you also know this game, you should be aware of my threat. If you are careless, you will die. Show your strength and fight with me. Let me see if your ability is worthy of my attention." As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Wang Ling to reply, the spear in his hand suddenly thrust out towards Wang Ling. The distance between the two of them is nearly 10 meters. No matter how long the spear is, it cannot reach Wang Ling. However, with this simple stab, Teacher Li Dong has already released the last move of the spear's stunt, a billowing shockwave of spear intent. He rushed towards Wang Ling's face. "Who says that cold weapons must be used for short-range combat?" Whoosh! Faced with this spear skill, Wang Ling also did not dare to block it, and avoided it with a time travel movement. After the skill was released, Wang Ling suddenly said, "Although the bound games are different, the systems are the same type of system. Is your game growth reflected in your weapon proficiency?" "Not bad." Teacher Li Dong continued to provoke, "Wang Ling, stop playing hide and seek with me. The two of us are destined to have a war. As hosts, this is our fate. I won't be merciful. If you continue like this, I will look down on you. Oh, it's really troublesome." Da. Wang Ling sighed. Although he didn't want to face the situation, in order to respond to Teacher Li Dong's challenge, he finally took out his Babisha submachine gun and pointed it at Teacher Li Dong. Why has Wang Ling never wanted to take action? Because hot weapons have obvious advantages over cold weapons. Wang Ling could easily kill someone by mistake if he couldn't hit them all. Although he counterattacked now, he still did not use all his strength, only using the most basic mobilization troops. Ding 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 ding. However, this result was somewhat unexpected. I thought that the bullets of the Babisha submachine gun were enough to injure Teacher Li Dong. However, I did not expect that Teacher Li Dong actually held the long gun in front of him, and a layer of protection appeared outside the range of the long gun. The hood blocked all the bullets, as if they were hitting impenetrable alloy steel. Wang Ling was shocked. After learning that Xiao had peeked at Teacher Li Dong, his hand was replaced by the Navy SEAL's P5 submachine gun, and he fired rapidly. However, these strafing shots were all blocked by Teacher Li Dong and could not penetrate the protective shield. "What skill is this?" Wang Ling asked. Teacher Li Dong maintained a defensive posture and replied, "Fortunately, you have played Meteor Butterfly Sword before. Have you forgotten that in this game, most weapons can be defended by right-clicking? In the defensive posture, most attacks can be resisted, but only a few skills can break through defense. I have honed my weapon proficiency to the highest level, and my defense ability has naturally reached its peak. This protective shield is not so easy to break." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1054. That layer of protective shield is close to Teacher Li Dong's body surface and is in the shape of a shuttle. It covers it in all directions and cannot be broken by even a submachine gun. It is truly an absolute defense. Wang Ling looked at this protective shield and couldn't help but sigh. I remembered the right-click defense, but I didn't expect that after reaching the top level of weapon proficiency, the right-click defense would be strengthened to this extent. With the hardness of this protective shield, I am afraid that it would have been those weapon moves that can break defenses can't break this protective shield, right? Teacher Li Dong smiled, "That's right. I started relatively late and grew slowly. It can be said that a big factor in surviving in the bloody world lies in this enhanced defense skill. You want to hurt me? If this protective shield cannot be broken, everything will be empty talk. Really? This way, it will be interesting." The corner of Wang Ling's mouth curled up, showing a confident arc. The appearance of the protective shield not only did not discourage Wang Ling, but also dispelled his worries. In a big fight, he no longer had to worry about accidentally killing Li Dong. Now that he no longer had this concern, Wang Ling let go, and the submachine gun in his hand immediately transformed into a soldier-level enhanced AK rifle, aiming at the protective shield and firing fiercely. Da-da-da-da-da. Ding 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 ding. Even the toughest apocalypse tank cannot withstand the shooting of Wang Ling's current elite combat soldiers. They will be blasted by him within a few seconds. This shows how powerful their attack power is. However, this powerful attack hit Teacher Li Dong's protective shield, but was completely blocked. It failed to break the shield, and naturally it could not hurt Li Dong. However, it was not easy for Teacher Li Dong to withstand such a powerful shot. There were traces of fluctuations like water ripples on the protective shield, spreading in all directions, giving people a feeling that it might break at any time. Although he barely resisted it, the powerful momentum caused Teacher Li Dong and the protective shield to move backwards in an exaggerated manner, almost 2 meters every second. Such a strong attack power. It's hard to imagine that this is the power of a rifle. During the resistance, Teacher Li Dong also gritted his teeth, fearing the rifle in Wang Ling's hand. In fact, Wang Ling was even more frightened. It's so tough, it can't even defeat a king-level AK rifle. Physical attacks are difficult to achieve, so let's try the mental level. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Ling concentrated on releasing a powerful mental shockwave, just like releasing a No. 1 extra-large air cannon. The land he passed along the way collapsed and violently hit Teacher Li Dong's protective shield. Superior. Boom. But the effect of this collision was unexpected. The protective shield actually blocked most of the collision force, causing the entire protective shield to flicker and appear, and the defensive power to be reduced sharply. The remaining mental power passed directly through the protective shield and successfully attacked Teacher Li Dong. Snort. The impact at this moment failed to cause effective damage to Li Dong, but the interference of mental power made his brain dizzy and his whole person fell into a brief trance. Good chance. Wang Ling's sharp eyes immediately seized this opportunity. He moved through time and space, quickly approached, transformed into the Wild Beast King, and punched out. At this time, Teacher Li Dong was in a bad state, but this punch really broke his protective shield. However, Teacher Li Dong also regained consciousness at this moment and counterattacked with a speed that frightened even Wang Ling. The weapon in his hand turned into a dagger, and a sharp sword mark was drawn diagonally from bottom to top, he Shuling. Wang Ling couldn't help but pay attention to this swift sword thrust at an angle. He quickly closed his fist and jumped back. However, after all, the sword came out too fast, and the sword still struck his chest. This move was not a big move and had limited damage. Moreover, Wang Ling had undergone advanced strengthening and was in the state of the Wild Beast King. The injury was not too serious, only a scar more than 20 centimeters long and 1 centimeter deep. Blast! But that's not all. After one move, Teacher Li Dong quickly transformed into a machete, jumped forward quickly, and swept the machete out like a club. Zheng! Wang Ling was still jumping back and failed to land. He was caught off guard and could only stretch out his arms to block. The machete struck his arms as if it was hitting iron sheets, making a metallic impact sound. The power of this move was much stronger than the dagger just now. It broke the skin of both arms, and the blade cut into the muscles of Wang Ling's arms, but was blocked by the arm bones. The huge force of this sweep also threw Wang Ling away and jumped to one side. Phoenix Feather. Before it landed, Teacher Li Dong turned his sword into a sword again and used the ultimate move of a dagger. He omitted all prelude preparations and compressed the circular attack range into an arc, then unleashed a steady stream of energy towards Wang Ling. The sword energy of the waves impacted. Depend on. When this move came out, Wang Ling was a little scared. He didn't dare to be touched. As a result, he turned over while flying upside down, slapped his palm on the ground, and used his huge force to forcefully fly into the air, barely escaping this killing move. Vajrakoutos. But just after escaping the killing move and before landing, Teacher Li Dong took out the hammer again, jumped on top of Wang Ling's head, did a forward somersault, and smashed the hammer. Boom! The destructive power of this hammer was very huge, but Wang Ling could not dodge it, so he could only use his arms to block again. However, the huge force was transmitted. Not only did his arms have slight bone fractures, but his whole body was like a meteorite. It was smashed down with the same crash, creating a terrifying deep pit on the ground. He Tai Chi. Before the dust settled, Professor Li Dong launched the next round of terrifying offensive. The hammer turned into a pair of thorns, and the blade almost shone with scarlet light, stabbing Wang Ling from top to bottom. This move is the ultimate move of double thorns. Once it is touched, it will usher in an almost continuous onslaught. It cannot be blocked or dodged. Even Wang Ling, if he attacks them all forcefully, he will probably have to do it. Was beaten seriously. Whoosh! Under the tremendous pressure, Wang Ling finally regained consciousness. He quickly activated his time travel movement, forcibly distanced himself from Professor Li Dong, and appeared more than 50 meters away. After hitting the target with one blow, Professor Li Dong's killing move naturally stopped and he jumped out of the pit. Due to the distance, he did not attack again. He just held the double thorns and looked at Wang Ling with a smile on his face. As for Wang Ling's current appearance, not to mention how embarrassed he was, not to mention dirty, there were even many scars, blood dripping from the corners of his mouth, his arms drooped naturally, and a large amount of blood slipped from his arms to his fingertips, falling down drop by drop. Fortunately, when Wang Ling was strengthening and fighting, injuries were common. This kind of injury did not make him scream in pain. Even because of the advanced strengthening, the injury was recovering quickly, and he recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sword marks and bone cracks on his chest are also rapidly recovering, and the exaggerated knife edges on his arms are growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although it is still in the dark stage, Teacher Li Dong has obviously adapted to fighting in the dark, and there is no problem with his eyesight. Seeing Wang Ling's recovery speed, he couldn't help but marveled, is this the advanced enhanced body recovery ability? It's really amazing, people envy you. However, Wang Ling did not answer his words. Within a few breaths, these skin injuries had recovered to some extent. He shook his arm, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his thumb, and gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I made a mistake. When fighting with you, I must not get close." As soon as I got close, I was hit by a series of skill combos. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 1055. Wang Ling had indeed practiced Zhengxing Quan for a long time in the Red Alert World. After strengthening his body several times, and combining it with moves from real-world action movies, he could almost sweep the entire Red Alert World in terms of boxing and kicking skills. However, in front of a dedicated martial arts game host, his kung fu can only be regarded as a show of strength. Even if Teacher Li Dong is not in good condition, his temporary reaction can beat Wang Ling to the point where he is unable to fight back. Although Wang Ling has completed all the enhancements and plots, he is extremely powerful, but if it comes to close combat, he is indeed no match for Teacher Li Dong. This lesson is a painful one. Team Leader. Holy shit, why is the host opposite so fierce? This is the first time I've seen the team leader beaten like this. In the transfer station, Sun Dehua and his party were watching the battle between the two, and when they saw Wang Lingjin was crushed, everyone was a little anxious, and Xiao He kept barking woof. Erla complained directly, "Why didn't the team leader call us out? It's really annoying to watch us doing this." Tanya, on the other hand, calmly said, "Why are you anxious? Their fight will not end in an instant. Wang Ling has not tried his best yet. Sooner or later, when we will be useful, just watch with peace of mind and don't disturb him easily." Haha, not bad. I have learned my lesson, and I can find my position quickly, and I still have a bit of combat awareness. On the Wild Valley Island in the real world, Teacher Li Dong listened to Wang Ling's words, and he did not forget to be sarcastic while praising him. While talking, Wang Ling's injuries had completely recovered. Just when he was thinking about how to fight back, Teacher Li Dong took the lead. Burning Thunder. With a cry, the double thorns in his hands turned into fire spears, and they aimed at Wang Ling and fired out billowing shock waves. Although the distance between the two was more than 50 meters, the fire tong gun itself was a relatively rare long-range weapon among the meteor butterfly sword. When its ultimate move was launched, the 50-meter gap was crossed almost in the blink of an eye, and it collided with Wang Ling. Whoosh! However, Wang Ling did not collide with him at all. He teleported to an altitude of 100 meters with a super time and space movement. An illusory rocket injector protruded from his back, allowing him to stand suspended in the air. Teacher Li Dong was not surprised when the blow failed. He looked up into the air and was amazed when he saw Wang Ling's condition, flying ability. Haha, it's really enviable. Teleportation, flying, I can do it too. I didn't expect you to have all the skills I had imagined. It seems that it is not just young people who have fantasized about these two skills. Wang Ling suppressed his anger and started provoking in the air. Don't you practice martial arts and know how to fly over walls? You can fly up too. Teacher Li Dong suddenly couldn't laugh or cry. It's true that Qinggong can fly over walls and fly over walls, but it's all done with the help of pedals, and it can't stay in the air for as long as you do. TCH. Since you can't come up, just wait to be beaten. Tisk tisk. After so many rounds of fighting, Wang Ling also knew how difficult Teacher Li Dong was, and was too lazy to argue with him about fairness. Relying on Teacher Li Dong being unable to reach him, Wang Ling actually released a King of Soldiers level magnetic blast downwards in the air. Infantry's electromagnetic current. But Teacher Li Dong remained the same, putting up the protective shield again and forcibly resisting. Although the area of this shuttle-shaped protective shield is not large, it is very hard. The powerful electromagnetic current hits it and cannot be broken for a while. Instead, it lingers on the surface of the protective shield, forming the shape of an electric chrysalis. The electric shocks were damaging, adding pressure to Teacher Li Dong all the time. During the continuous attack, Wang Ling also gave advice, "Teacher, do you still want to continue to resist? I am indeed no match for you in close combat, but what I am best at is long-range firefights. You can't get close at all in the air. The battle is not equal at all." While resisting, Teacher Li Dong also responded, "I know it's not equal, but there's nothing I can do about it. This battle must have a result. If you have the ability to defeat me quickly, just use whatever tricks you have, let me see how strong you can be. If you refuse to use it, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Swish. 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 After responding, black whirlpools suddenly appeared outside Teacher Li Dong's electric chrysalis, and figures in ancient costumes walked out of them. Some of these people were assassins, dressed in black, some were guards, wearing silver robes and holding spears, and some were monks, holding broadswords and hammers. In addition, there were some protectors and city lords. Among them, Wang Ling even saw the figure who massacred the city. There were all kinds of people, totaling 20 people. Yes, the competition between the system hosts is not only a fight between themselves, but also a head-on confrontation between their subordinate forces. When killing Zheng Long, Teacher Li Dong's subordinates really put in a lot of effort. Boom. Boom. After these martial arts characters appeared, they didn't say much. Two of the guardians directly raised their fire spears and aimed at Wang Ling in the air with 2 shots. These 2 shots were not a killing move, but they were not ordinary average shots either. If they were hit, it would be uncomfortable. As a last resort, Wang Ling could only quickly move through time and space to avoid them. Eternal calamity. But just as he appeared in another place, a monk suddenly grabbed the flywheel and threw it out, launched a killing move, and flew towards Wang Ling with circles of poisonous light. This flywheel is a locked attack, and its ultimate move is even more difficult to dodge. However, Wang Ling is not restricted. He once again uses time and space to dodge. The flywheel loses its target and can only return the same way after hitting it empty. Luo Yingxiu. However, Wang Ling was not given a chance to breathe. As soon as he appeared, Teacher Li Dong, who was freed from his restraints, took out the darts again and launched his killing move. Dozens of poisoned hidden weapons flew upward diagonally. Depend on. Whoosh. Wang Ling felt dizzy and could only continue to dodge. But after dodging, 2 consecutive fire spears killing move Burning Thunder came towards him. This time, Wang Ling's dodge speed was a little slower, and the Burning Thunder affected his arm. As a result, the entire arm instantly turned red, and there were more than 10 bullet holes on it. You still have to pay it forward. Wang Ling gritted his teeth, tensed his muscles and popped out the marbles. When the wound healed automatically, he had summoned a large number of forces from the Red Alert world, and hundreds of black whirlpools appeared one after another on the island. However, what emerged from the whirlpool was not the coalition forces, but the infantry of the Psychic Empire, including a large number of Yuri recruits, as well as wild orcs, virus snipers, and psychic troops. During the battle against the Soul Empire, Wang Ling actually killed too many infantrymen of the Soul Empire, and now he actually exchanged them for cannon fodder. Wang Ling, it's your uncle. In the transfer station, Yuri's face turned dark when he saw this scene, but he could only curse and couldn't resist.